This is the Lexus LX700h. It's the Japanese answer to a Range Rover Experience, but to meet the demands of luxury Lexus customers, there's a few boxes that need to be ticked. The first box is it needs to be big, bold, and bougie, and really captivate Lexus's minimalistic design philosophy. Number two, it has to offer a cloud-like driving sensation. And number three, it needs to have the wow factor on the inside that warrants its 2.7 million rand price tag. Let's take a look. So the first thing to unpack is its appearance. And if you have a look, especially from a distance, it's a big, boxy machine. But Lexus's design language pushes the minimalistic, simplistic origami, so very pretty styling. And if we look at the front, it's busy. There's a lot going on, but it blends nicely. There's lots of very intricate lines. The attention to detail is fantastic. But if you have a look a little bit behind me here, all-terrain tires and side steps. Right, that means it's the Overtrail, which is the off-road package to the LX. Will you be taking a car like this on the toughest trail South Africa has to offer? Probably not, but you can if you want to. But what this does mean is it's a South African, so it can cruise the open road, but it doesn't fear the road less traveled. So in the looks department, I think that's a box tick. So the next box to be ticked, and arguably an integral part of a luxury car, is the cabin space. Firstly, everything is soft and covered in leather, and it is a comfortable space to be. But if we look at the center here, there's a lot going on. At the top, we've got our infotainment screen. In the middle, we've got our climate control screen. In front of me, I've got my driver's display screen. And below that, there are a smorgasbord of buttons, dials, and switches that help with my low range and high range, helps with my driving modes, helps with my climate control functions. And then there's two little buttons over here, which are my favorite, that ensure I can drop this car to the ground if I want, or I can sit high and proud above the rest of traffic. Another aspect to consider when buying a luxury car, and one which for me is most important, is comfort, specifically in the legroom department. So I'm sitting here in a comfortable driving position. My legs are bent, my arms aren't stretched. This is not an obnoxious position for a driver. Now join me in the back. Well, I think this paints a pretty clear picture. I'm as scooched back as I can be, and I've got maybe about 3 fingers width away from the driver's seat. To be honest, in a car this big, I was expecting just a little bit more. But on a nicer topic, there are 2 screens in the back which keep your distracted children away from causing havoc within the cabin. So with the interior out of the way, there's one box left to be checked. And how does the LX drive? Well, the first and most noticeable feature about the LX is just how unbelievably smooth its ride quality is. It absorbs every bump, every shock with ease, but with this soft ride characteristic, does come with it a sense of body roll and a little bit of looseness in the corners. Once you turn it in, it takes a second for those tires to load up, really get all the weight on those outside tires, and then it gives you the grip to get through. It's a very small thing, but it is unfortunately a little bit noticeable. So the ride quality is only a small part of a rather complex driving equation. You see, the next thing I want to touch on is its 10-speed automatic gearbox. And my word, does it complement the ride quality. It is exceptionally smooth. You almost never notice the gear changes, but if you do clip it into sport, snap it down a couple of gears, it's pretty responsive too. But paired to that gearbox is also a rather hearty 3.5 litre V6 with hybrid assist. Look, the hybrid assist is just there to improve your fuel consumption and maybe add just a little bit more power to the equation. But speaking of power, this thing produces 341 kilowatts and 790 Newton meters of torque. And obviously with numbers that big, this thing has more than enough shunt to overtake its speed and get off the line with enough enthusiasm. But I would like to remind you that it is a huge machine. So for the most part, it's not going to be breaking many land speed records. So I've spent a fairly good amount of time in Lexus's new LX700h. So let's unpack it a little bit. So first up is its aesthetics. Well, from the back to the front, it captivates that minimalistically simplistic look that Lexus is going for. So first box is a big check in my book. Second up is its interior. So it loses a few points with its lack of rear legroom and its digitalized interior, but for the most part, its luxury finishes, its pleasant touches, it captivates the luxury look that I'm looking for, so I'm going to put a slightly fainter tick in that box. And lastly, it's the driving dynamics, and it's here where the car excels. Its suspension is buttery smooth on the open road, and its 10-speed gearbox complements that with a smooth and its predictable gear changes. Lastly, that V6 in the front has bucket tons of power for overtaking, and it's nice and smooth, which adds to that whole luxury experience. So for me, what a car.